Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. My name is James Scaresbrook, and I've had a bit of a break, a bit of a hiatus of tastings of late. With the change in things at home as far as the arrival of my gorgeous son. I've also changed jobs recently. I haven't had huge amounts of time with which to taste stuff, so I'm glad to be back in the saddle, as it were, to look at some wines, some more wines from D'Arenberg. I think probably by far the most submitted producer to the YouTube channel is D'Arenberg, from obviously the gorgeous Tash. And I am always happy to look at some D'Arenberg wines. In this case, I'm looking at the 2014 vintages of the Icon products, the Icon red wines, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what 2014 vintage had to show. I did look at the same three wines from a previous vintage on another episode. Do go back and watch that because it'll make for interesting viewing to compare those two vintages. So without further ado, I'm going to start off with the Ironstone pressings, which is a Grenache 72% Shiraz, 25% and Mouvedre 3%, of course, from the McLaren Vale. The recommended retail price is $65, and has a fairly bold label to go with the bold character of the wine, no doubt. And of course, the icon of D'Arenberg is the red stripe. You can see on that label, I'm assuming. So Grenache, Shiraz, Mouvedre, as I probably would have said the last time I tasted this wine, as I probably do say anytime I taste this blend, is a very classic varietal blend. Originally, or maybe not originally, but probably made famous in Europe, in the Rhone Valley, particularly in the southern Rhone, and the Barossa and McLaren Vale, as well as some other regions, no different. And you do tend to find those three varieties together, commonly in something along those lines. Usually Grenache, Shiraz, and Mouvedre. Grenache makes the largest part, Shiraz, and then Mouvedre the smallest part. Mouvedre is, from what I understand, it's not an easy grape to work with. So yeah, let's have a look at what the Ironstone Pressings has to offer. Nice and dark, juby, black fruits, plum, certainly blood plum. It does have some nice sort of floral characters as well, some violets, some rose. Certainly is quite fragrant, perfumed, and showing nice fruit, nice juicy characters. So let's taste. Quite fresh, quite light. I'm actually surprised at the cleanliness, I guess, the freshness of this wine. I anticipated seeing a little bit more barrel oak character, but it's actually nice and fresh. I dare say it probably had very little to no new oak. Well composed, well balanced. The varieties are all working well together. It possibly could do with a little bit more Mouvedre, but the Grenache is nice and fresh and crunchy. The Shiraz is giving it a little bit more bones, and Mouvedre is just sort of fleshing things out a little bit, but very solid. $65, it's possibly a stretch, but I dare say people who are fans of D'Arenberg and have consumed their wines for many years will not be disappointed with that. That is a very, very solid wine from D'Arenberg. Just a little bit candied on the nose as well. Okay, the second one is the Dead Arm, which is 100% Shiraz. Shiraz, as I probably have said many times already, is the most planted variety in Australia, at least I believe it is, and certainly the variety that Australia has built a very, very strong reputation, at least in the past, in the export markets. And the Darrenberg Dead Arm is, probably one of the better known Shiraz wines, both in Australia and overseas. Has a very, very good track record and pedigree. So let's see what 2014 has to offer. So even darker in colour, a little bit more intense than the Ironstone pressings. Darker but also softer aromatics. Slightly more sort of savoury black fruit characters. Probably less sort of lifted floral aromatics as well. A little bit more brooding, but yeah, definitely still in that ripe, purpley sort of fruit spectrum. Let's taste. More tannin here, slightly more. You might be able to hear my son Ollie in the background. Slightly more astringency here and texture. It has a sort of a drying out effect on the palate. I think possibly it's just lacking a little bit more sort of soft fruit ripeness. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm not seeing a lot of oak treatment here. It is more about the variety. It probably had a decent amount of maceration, might have had some extended time post-fermentation on its skins, which is possibly contributing to that sort of that astringency, that texture, that tannin. It's quite dry. It has the appearance of being a lot drier than the first one, so there is somewhat of a disconnect between the aromatics and the palate at this stage. I think it probably needs to develop a little bit more. It shows more brightness and fruit aromatics than the palate actually offers. Yeah, it's a little bit dry and reasonably tightly wound as well. Quite tight. The final wine for this edition is the Coppermine Road, which is Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet, of course, is a very widely planted variety in Australia. Probably proportionally, it's not as much as it was, say, in the 1990s. Grapes like Pinot Noir have really caught up with Cabernet and Merlot, and of course you're starting to see some alternative varieties starting to see more plantings. Cabernet is still very strong, particular regions in Australia very strong for it. Cabernet, although is not necessarily what's so closely associated with McLaren Vale, Shiraz and Grenache are the varieties that tend to be closely associated with McLaren Vale and certainly have a stronger reputation. Cabernet has a pretty good reputation in McLaren Vale, so let's see what the 2014 Coppermine Road has to say. Again, black fruits. I'm seeing a consistency across all three wines. Possibly somewhat vintage related. A nice sort of bright black purple fruit aroma, possibly sort of moving more into blueberries now. It certainly has fairly strong varietal character and a strong regional character. Nice and inviting, lacking sort of some of the dusty or earthy or eucalypt characters of places like Margaret River and Coonawarra. Let's taste. tightly wound, just like the Shiraz. Quite lean. I'm surprised with the leanness. I need to look back on my notes from the previous tasting, the previous vintage, but I think they're probably either it's a vintage specific thing, or in this vintage they've harvested just a little bit earlier, because it doesn't have that kind of quite overt ripeness, that really big bold fruit character on the palate. It actually has some nice restraint to it. I'm really actually quite impressed with that. That's a beautifully made Cabernet, and I'm surprised of the presence of on the palate, considering it's from the McLaren Vale, which it can be considered to be not necessarily as ideal for Cabernet as somewhere like Coonawarra. I like that. Again, not seeing a lot of new oak in there, and so although I think it's going to get better with some time, it actually has a lot to offer now. So the Cabernet, the Coppermine Red, actually has taken me by surprise, so that's my pick for this tasting. The Shiraz doesn't show that well now. I think it potentially, in 3 to 5 years, will show a little bit better. As far as drink now option, the Ironstone pressings is probably my pick. Having said that, these kind of prices, like they're all recommended retail of $65. A lot of people will be putting them down for at least a year or so, at least until the next vintage gets released. So it's not necessarily something that people are going to drink straight away. But yeah, if you are going to drink something first, I'd start with the Grenache, Shiraz, Mouvedre, and then I think maybe it's a toss-up between the Dead Arm and the Coppermine Road. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. Of course, as always, thank you to Tash. I do have some more D'Arenberg wines that I will open on subsequent episodes of Let's Taste. As always, I really do appreciate it when people send me samples. It's a great privilege to be able to share my impressions of your wine, so do get in touch with me if you would like to submit samples. I'm happy to hear from you. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Make sure to comment below. Please pose me a question, recommend me a wine. Let me know what your impressions of these vintages of the D'Arenberg Icon Reds are. Make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, because there's lots and lots of other content here, and it means you also get notified. Well, hopefully, I think you have to hit a notification button or something to get notified when there's a new video on the channel. Hopefully pretty soon I'll be posting my first vintage video for 2017. I'm very excited to share that. Come and visit me at intrepidwino.com. There's lots of different ways of getting in contact with me there. I've done writing, obviously I host podcasts, and yeah, it'd be great to hear from you in any form, even social media. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. But guys, until next time, cheers.